The families were waiting at Dover Air Force Base. 3 mothers, 2 wives, and a father who'd already lost 1 son. The Angel flight was supposed to bring their heroes home, but the pilot was in the hospital and no replacement could be found. But when a quiet maintenance worker stepped forward saying, "I can fly it," everyone dismissed her as just ground crew. What they didn't know was that the faded tattoo on her wrist would make the base chaplain freeze in shock because it told a story of sacrifice that would change everything. Her name was Maria Santos, and this is her story. Ramstein Air Base, Germany. On a cold November morning, Hangar 7 housed a C-17 Globemaster III transport aircraft undergoing preparation. This wasn't an ordinary transport mission. This was an Angel flight, one of the most sacred traditions in the American military. The mission to bring fallen soldiers home for the final time. The aircraft's fuselage read, "Spirit of America," but the personnel had given it a different name, Angel Flight. For 15 years it had carried out this duty. From Afghanistan, from Iraq, from Syria, it had reunited countless heroes with their families. Maria Santos, 42 years old, was Hangar 7's quietest worker. For 5 years she'd worked here as ground crew, cleaning aircraft, loading cargo, performing maintenance checks. Medium height, olive-skinned, with dark brown hair always pulled back in a tight ponytail. Her gray-blue maintenance coveralls bore the name Santos, with no rank insignia. On Maria's left wrist, hidden beneath the coverall's cuff, was a small tattoo, a single angel wing, done in black ink, drawn with only fine lines. Most people had never seen it. Those who had assumed it was just a decorative tattoo. But that tattoo had meaning. Very special, very painful meaning. That morning, Maria had arrived early as always. At 0600 hours, the hangar was silent, only security lights illuminated. The C-17 stood in the center of the hangar, massive, gray, and imposing. Inside were 3 flag-draped caskets, 3 coffins covered with American flags. Sergeant David Kim, 24 years old, from California. Staff Sergeant Michael Rodriguez, 29 years old, from Texas. Corporal Jennifer Walsh, 22 years old, from Ohio. All 3 had been killed in a bombing attack in Syria. As Maria walked around the aircraft, she felt the weight inside. Not just physical weight, emotional weight. The stories of these 3 young people, their families, their unfinished dreams. "Morning, Maria," said Sergeant Thompson, the hangar chief. 35 years old, from Virginia, a technician with 15 years of experience. "Angel flight departs at 1400 today. Everything ready?" "Yes, Sarge," Maria said quietly. "Fuel check complete, cargo secured, all systems green." Thompson nodded. "Good. Colonel Henderson will brief at 1000. Pilot is Major Collins, co-pilot Captain Martinez." Maria knew these names. Major Collins, 45 years old, an experienced pilot who'd been flying Angel flights for 8 years. Calm, respectful, he viewed his duty as a sacred responsibility. Captain Martinez, 32 years old, Collins's trusted co-pilot. At 0930 hours, an alarm sounded. "Emergency to flight line," echoed through the hangar speakers. "Medical emergency to flight line." Maria ran outside the hangar door. An ambulance was stopped in front of Hangar 5. Paramedics were loading someone onto a stretcher. It was Major Collins. His face was pale, unconscious, with an oxygen mask fitted. "What happened?" Thompson asked, running up. "Heart attack," the paramedic said. "Stress-induced. We're taking him to Landstuhl Medical Center." Thompson's face paled. The Angel flight pilot was in the hospital. Takeoff was in 4 hours. 10 minutes later, a crisis meeting convened in Hangar 7. Colonel Henderson, squadron commander, Major Thompson, operations officer, Captain Martinez, and hangar personnel. "The situation is this," said Colonel Henderson. 50 years old, gray-haired, with a stern expression. "Major Collins is in the hospital, condition critical. Captain Martinez can't fly alone. Angel flight requires 2 pilots. Are there other pilots available?" Thompson asked. "None currently on base," Henderson said. "All qualified pilots are on duty or on leave. The closest replacement would come from Spang, but that takes 6 hours. Families are waiting at Dover," Captain Martinez said quietly. "Kim family, Rodriguez family, Walsh family. They've been waiting 3 days already." Henderson nodded. "I know, but Angel flight can't be rushed. Safety protocols, respect protocols, these are sacred." Maria stood in the corner listening. Her heart was beating fast, her hands were shaking. In her mind, that day was coming alive. 7 years ago in Afghanistan, another Angel flight. "Sir," Thompson said, "we'll have to postpone. We'll explain to the families. I can fly it." The voice was very quiet, but everyone in the room heard it. They all turned, looking at Maria. Had that small, quiet ground crew worker really said such a thing? "Excuse me?" Colonel Henderson said in shock. "I can fly the Angel flight," Maria said, her voice a bit stronger. "I'm a qualified pilot." Silence fell over the room. Then Thompson laughed. "Maria, you're ground crew. You're not a pilot." "I have a pilot's license," Maria said calmly. "C-17 qualified, 1,800 hours flight time." Henderson frowned. "Santos, you've been doing maintenance here for 5 years. You don't appear as a pilot in our records." "That's correct," Maria said. "Because I stopped being a pilot." "Why?" Captain Martinez asked. Maria hesitated. For 7 years, no one had dared ask this question. Now she had to answer. "Personal reasons," she said briefly. "Personal reasons aren't sufficient for Angel flight," Henderson said sternly. "This mission is too important for experiments." "Sir," Maria said, her voice slightly trembling, "the family's waiting at Dover. What happens if no pilot is found for them?" Henderson fell silent. This was a difficult question. "The flight gets delayed," he said finally. "Tomorrow a replacement will come." "They'll wait another day?" Maria asked. "The Kim family's parents are 75 years old. The Walsh family's mother's coming alone. The Rodriguez family's father, he already lost one son in Iraq." How did she know this detail? Everyone looked at Maria in surprise. "How do you know all this?" Thompson asked. Maria remained silent, because before every Angel flight mission, she would read the files of the fallen families. By herself, without telling anyone, she wanted to know them, the heroes she would carry, the waiting families. "Sir," Captain Martinez said to Henderson, "if Santos is really qualified, maybe we should check her credentials." "She's not in the base computer," Thompson said. "Maria has no pilot records." "Could be unclassified," Henderson said thoughtfully. "Sometimes former pilots transfer for different reasons." At that moment, Chaplain Rodriguez entered through the hangar door. 55 years old, Hispanic heritage, with a calm and wise expression. He'd served at Ramstein for 12 years, blessing all Angel flights. "Colonel," Chaplain Rodriguez said, "prayer service is ready for Angel flight, but I hear there's a delay." "Pilot emergency," Henderson said. "We're looking for a replacement." Chaplain Rodriguez sensed the tension in the room. His eyes moved to Maria. "Santos," he said gently, "did you volunteer?" "Yes, Father," Maria said quietly. Chaplain Rodriguez approached. He looked at Maria's face, saw the pain in her eyes. Then his eyes moved to Maria's wrist. The coverall's cuff had shifted slightly, revealing the single angel wing tattoo. Chaplain Rodriguez froze. "Dios mío," he whispered. "What?" Henderson asked. Chaplain Rodriguez looked at Maria, his eyes filled with emotion. "Show them," he said quietly. Maria hesitated. She was about to reveal what she'd hidden for 7 years. Slowly, she pulled up the cuff of her left sleeve. The single angel wing tattoo became fully visible. Simple but beautiful, drawn with black lines. But around it, in very fine letters, names were written. Captain James Mitchell, Angel Flight, 2017, never forgotten. Everyone in the room fell silent. Chaplain Rodriguez took a breath. "Single wing tattoo," he said in a reverent voice. Only very special pilots carry this." "What does it mean?" Thompson asked. "When an Angel flight pilot loses their co-pilot and completes the mission alone," Chaplain Rodriguez said, "and they choose to retire afterward, they earn the right to wear the single wing." Henderson's expression changed. "Santos," he said slowly, "were you an Angel flight pilot?" "From 2012 to 2017, Maria said quietly. 47 missions, no failures. "What happened in 2017? Captain Martinez asked. Maria closed her eyes. She tried to remember that day. "Captain Mitchell was my co-pilot," she said, voice barely audible. "We were bringing 5 KIA from Afghanistan. Kabul to Dover. Midway, we experienced engine failure. We had to make an emergency landing." She paused. "James, Captain Mitchell was trying to repair the engine when there was an explosion. He died instantly. I completed the mission alone." Pin-drop silence in the room. 5 fallen soldiers reunited with their families, Maria continued. "But James couldn't come home." "Why did you retire?" Henderson asked, his voice softened. Because, Maria said with tears, I couldn't look at another Angel flight cockpit without seeing his empty seat. Chaplain Rodriguez touched Maria's shoulder. But you're here, he said gently. For 5 years you've prepared every Angel flight. You never really left. Maria nodded. I promised James's family, she said, that the Angel flight tradition would continue. In a different way, but it would continue. Colonel Henderson said nothing for a minute. Then he pulled out his radio. Base Command, this is Henderson. Requesting emergency clearance for Angel flight pilot situation. Go ahead, Colonel. Former Angel flight pilot Maria Santos, 47 successful missions, single-wing qualifier. Requesting emergency pilot authorization. Stand by. They waited 5 minutes. The radio crackled. Colonel Henderson, authorization approved. Santos cleared for Angel flight duty. Emergency status. Henderson turned off the radio, looked at Maria. Santos, he said formally, you're cleared to fly. Maria couldn't breathe. Sir, I don't know if I can. You can, Chaplain Rodriguez said firmly. James would want this. Those families need this. And you need this. Captain Martinez stepped forward. Ma'am, he said respectfully, I'd be honored to be your co-pilot. Maria looked at Martinez. Young, eager. He had energy similar to James. Are you sure? Maria asked. Absolutely, Martinez said. Angel flight is sacred. You know that better than anyone. 2 hours later, Maria was sitting in the pilot seat. After a 7-year break. Her hands were shaking, but the familiar controls felt right. Everything was in place. Switches, displays, systems. Pre-flight check, Martinez said. Roger, Maria said, her voice stronger now. Engine 1, start. The C-17's engines roared to life. Personnel in Hangar 7 watched as Angel Flight taxied toward the runway. Ramstein Tower, this is Angel Flight 774, requesting clearance for departure. Angel Flight 774, you are cleared for takeoff. Godspeed. Maria throttled up. The C-17 rolled down the runway, gathering speed. At 150 knots, she pulled back gently. The aircraft lifted off German soil, banking toward Dover, Delaware. 8 hours flight time. 8 hours Maria would be alone with memories, fears, and hope. ETA to Dover? Martinez asked. 6 hours 23 minutes, Maria said. Weather looks good. At cruising altitude, Maria engaged the autopilot. She breathed easily for the first time. Ma'am, Martinez said quietly, can I ask about Captain Mitchell? Maria hesitated, then decided to speak. James was the best co-pilot I ever flew with, she said. 3 years together, 31 Angel flights. He treated every mission like a personal responsibility, like you do. Yes, like I do. What would he say about today? Maria smiled for the first time in hours. He'd say, get those heroes home, Maria. Families are waiting. 4 hours later, Dover Air Force Base began to appear. Maria's heart raced again. Below, on the flight line, she could see the families, small groups waiting. Dover Tower, Angel Flight 774 requesting permission to land. Angel Flight 774, welcome home. You're cleared for final approach. Maria lowered the landing gear. The C-17 made a soft touchdown on Dover's runway. Perfect landing. Well done, ma'am, Martinez said. Thank you, Captain. The aircraft taxied to the hangar. Outside, the honor guard had formed up. Families gathered, hearts breaking and healing simultaneously. Maria shut down the engines. After 7 years, she had completed an Angel flight mission. Ready? Martinez asked. Ready, Maria said. The hangar doors opened. The honor guard entered, followed by families. Maria exited the cockpit, waiting respectfully. The first family was the Kim family. Sergeant David Kim's parents, a Korean-American couple in their 50s. The mother was crying, the father trying to be strong. Maria approached them. Mr. and Mrs. Kim, she said gently. Your son served with honor. This aircraft brought him home. Thank you, Mrs. Kim said, tears streaming. Thank you for bringing our David home. The Rodriguez family had come, father in his 60s with military bearing. Maria saw different pain in his eyes. Mr. Rodriguez, Maria said. You're the pilot? Mr. Rodriguez asked. Yes, sir. This is the second time for me, Mr. Rodriguez said, his voice breaking. My oldest son, Carlos, died in Iraq in 2009. Now Michael. Maria's heart tightened. Sir, she said, I'm so sorry for your losses. Your sons died as heroes. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez said, for bringing him home safe. The Walsh family was the youngest family. Corporal Jennifer Walsh was 22 years old. Her mother in her 40s had come alone. "Mrs. Walsh," Maria said. "You look young to be a pilot," Mrs. Walsh said, studying Maria's face. "Ma'am, this mission, it's personal for all of us." "Personal?" Maria hesitated, then showed her single-wing tattoo. "I lost my co-pilot 7 years ago," she said, "on an Angel flight. Since then, I couldn't fly, until today." Mrs. Walsh's eyes filled with tears. "You came back for Jennifer?" "For all of them," Maria said. "For you, for all families." Mrs. Walsh hugged Maria tightly. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for bringing my baby home." The ceremony lasted 2 hours. Flag presentations, prayers, final honors. Maria stood in the background, watching families say goodbye to their heroes. Chaplain Rodriguez came to her side. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Different," Maria said. "Good different." "Will you fly again?" Maria looked at her single-wing tattoo. "Maybe," she said. "Maybe it's time." That evening, Maria sat in her room in the barracks. On her desk was a photo of James Mitchell, in his co-pilot uniform, smiling, confident. "We did it, James," Maria said to the photo. 3 more heroes home. The phone rang. It was Colonel Henderson. "Santos," Henderson said. "How are you?" "Good, sir. Mission complete." "Santos, would you consider coming back? Full-time pilot duty?" Maria hesitated. I need time to think, sir." "Of course, but Santos." "Yes, sir. Today you honored not just those 3 fallen soldiers. You honored James. You honored Angel Flight tradition, and you honored yourself." Maria began to cry. "Thank you, sir." 3 weeks later, Maria was sitting in the pilot seat. Angel Flight 881, Germany to Dover, 2 KIA. But this time, Captain Martinez wasn't beside her. There was a new co-pilot, Second Lieutenant Sarah Kim, Sergeant David Kim's cousin. The Angel Flight had inspired her to join the pilot training program. "Ready for takeoff, ma'am?" Lieutenant Kim asked. "Ready," Maria said. The single-wing tattoo on her left wrist was still there. It would always be there, but it was no longer a symbol of grief. It was a symbol of purpose. Angel Flight 881, cleared for takeoff. Roger, tower. Angel Flight rolling. As the C-17 took off from the runway, Maria smiled. James's spirit was on the aircraft, as it was on every Angel Flight. Heroes coming home, families waiting, sacred mission continuing. The Angel Flight tradition lived on. 6 months later, Maria Santos became commander of the Angel Flight Squadron. 15 years experience, 47 successful missions, and single-wing qualification. In Hangar 7, in Maria's office, a framed photo hung on the wall. Captain James Mitchell with Maria from one of their first Angel Flights together. Below it, a plaque, "In honor of those who gave all, and those who carry them home." On Maria's desk, there were always fresh flowers, for James's memory, and before every Angel Flight, Maria would look at the flowers and say a quiet prayer. "Watch over us, James. Help us bring them home." The Angel Flight tradition wasn't just about flying. It was sacred duty, brotherhood, love. Maria Santos, once a lost pilot, now Angel Flight Commander, would ensure that no hero was ever left behind, no family ever waited alone. Her single-wing tattoo was no longer just a symbol. It was a promise kept. But the story didn't end there. Maria's return to Angel Flight duty had rippled through the military aviation community. Her story became legend, whispered in ready rooms, shared in pilot training academies, told wherever aviators gathered. The single-wing tattoo, once a mark of tragic loss, began to represent something more. It became a symbol of resilience, of duty transcending personal pain, of promises kept even when the cost seemed unbearable. Young pilots would ask about it in hushed tones. "Have you seen a single-wing tattoo?" they'd whisper. "Do you know what it means?" And the older pilots would nod solemnly, knowing they were speaking of something sacred. Maria established new protocols for Angel Flight operations. Co-pilot families were honored alongside the fallen. Support systems were created for aircrew who experienced loss during sacred missions. The tradition evolved, strengthened by the lessons learned from pain. Every month, Maria would visit Section 60 at Arlington National Cemetery. She would find James Mitchell's grave, a simple white headstone among thousands of others. She would place fresh flowers and update him on the program. 47 missions completed since you've been gone. she would say quietly. Hundreds of heroes brought home. The tradition continues, James. Your sacrifice meant something. The Angel Flight program expanded under Maria's leadership. More aircraft, more crews, more families served. But the core remained unchanged, the sacred duty to bring America's fallen heroes home with dignity and honor. Lieutenant Sarah Kim progressed through the program rapidly. She had natural flying ability, but more importantly, she understood the weight of the mission. On her first solo Angel Flight command, she carried a photograph of her cousin David in her flight suit pocket. "For David," she said during pre-flight prayers, "and for all the heroes we carry home." Maria watched Kim's development with pride. The next generation was ready. The tradition would continue long after Maria's own service ended. One evening, as Maria finished her logbook after a particularly difficult mission, 5 soldiers lost in a training accident, she found a letter on her desk. It was from Mrs. Rodriguez, the father who had lost 2 sons. "Commander Santos," the letter read, "I wanted you to know that your service means more than bringing my boys home. It means that their sacrifice is honored, that their families are not forgotten, that their country remembers. Thank you for carrying our burdens and for finding the strength to fly again. You are proof that from the deepest loss can come the greatest purpose." Maria sat quietly for a long time after reading the letter. Outside her office window, the flight line was quiet, aircraft secured for the night. Tomorrow there would be another mission, another family waiting, another hero to bring home. She looked at the single-wing tattoo on her wrist. The ink had faded slightly over the years, but the lines remained sharp, uncompromising. James's name was still clearly visible, written in the delicate script that surrounded the wing. "We're making a difference, James," she whispered to the quiet office. "Every flight, every family, every promise kept. Your sacrifice started something bigger than both of us." As she turned off the lights and locked her office, Maria reflected on the journey that had brought her full circle. From pilot to exile, from grief to purpose, from isolation to leadership. The Angel Flight tradition had saved her as much as she had saved it. The single-wing tattoo would always mark her as someone who had lost a partner in service. But it also marked her as someone who had found the courage to continue, to honor the fallen not just through memory, but through action. Walking across the dark flight line toward her quarters, Maria could see the silhouette of tomorrow's Angel Flight aircraft being prepared by the night crew. Inside, flag-draped caskets waited for their final journey home. Families waited at Dover, hearts heavy with loss, but strengthened by the knowledge that their heroes would be treated with dignity and honor. The cycle continued. Heroes served, some fell, and those who remained carried them home. It was a sacred duty, an unbroken chain of service and sacrifice that connected the living and the dead. Maria Santos had found her place in that chain, not as the broken pilot who had lost her co-pilot, but as the guardian of a tradition that honored the best of America, the willingness to serve, to sacrifice, and to remember. The Angel Flight would continue. Heroes would come home, and families would know that their loved one's service would never be forgotten. The single-wing tattoo was more than a mark of loss. It was a covenant, a promise, a sacred trust, and Maria Santos would keep that trust until her own final flight. Years later, when aviation historians would write about the evolution of the Angel Flight program, they would mark Maria Santos's return as a pivotal moment, not just because a broken pilot found her wings again, but because she transformed a tradition rooted in duty into one enriched by compassion and understanding. The single-wing tattoo, once rare and tragic, became a symbol recognized throughout military aviation, not as a mark of failure or loss, but as a badge of extraordinary dedication, worn by those who had faced the ultimate test of their commitment and chosen to continue serving. Maria's story was told in pilot training schools, not as a cautionary tale, but as an inspiration. Young aviators learned that courage wasn't the absence of fear or pain, but the decision to fly again despite both. And on quiet nights at air bases around the world, when Angel Flight crews prepared for their sacred missions, they would sometimes speak of Commander Santos and the promise that brought her home, the promise that no hero would ever be left behind and no sacrifice would ever be forgotten. The tradition lived on, carried by hands that understood both loss and hope, guided by hearts that had learned to transform grief into purpose. Maria Santos had kept her promise to James Mitchell, to the fallen, and to herself. The angel flight would always bring heroes home. Have you ever found the courage to return to something that once broke your heart? What did this story remind you of? Share your experiences in the comments. If you enjoy stories of service, sacrifice, and second chances, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Join Hidden Hero Stories. Every story of heroism carries within it a story of redemption. See you next time.